Right, I'm going to revert to the normal agenda now and go to item number 6, and I think Andrea is here from the report from the Burwood Pegasus Community Board about another swimming pool and schools.
The staff haven't arrived. They're due any second though.
Ah, you've got some staff
Simon was
that we need.
on his way down.
Okay, well, do you just want to tell us the community board's view on it?
Yep.
Andrea?
I believe he will arrive.
Thanks, Judy.
Okay, thank you very much. So yes, here about the proposed sale of land to the Ministry of Education. Now this conversation probably started upwards of 2 years ago. The CAG was formed, the QE2 CAG, or the QE2 replacement CAG was formed, and the purpose of that was to define what we wanted in a piece of land anywhere in the east to rebuild our pool. And so the first thing we did was come up with a number of criteria, and I've asked for them to be provided, but they haven't obviously come. But they included accessibility, room to grow, geotechnical information, hazards, transportation. There was about a dozen criteria that we defined, and we spent weeks, hours and hours and hours on working out which of those were the most important to us and which were the least important, and we then used that extensively throughout the process to determine which bigger parcel of land we wanted. So we looked at a number of sites all around the east. Obviously QE2 was chosen about 15 months ago from memory, based on those criteria. And so then within the park, I think we've also really sort of fallen back on those criteria to work out where in the park is the best place for the pool to be repositioned. And even before we'd even heard whispers about the schools looking at this site, we had already picked, in broad terms, the area that the pool is marked on the map on page, whatever page it's on.
36.
Thank you. So then the schools obviously came into the mix, and we have met with the schools a number of times in formal settings. Also, when this issue was coming to be decided, we felt as a board as though we needed a little bit more conversation with the schools to really understand their position. So we informally, as a board, met with the schools about 3 weeks ago now, and had a really good conversation with them, because obviously we have to, in our decision, we have to look at what they are wanting as well for their facilities. And so we had a really good, frank, open discussion, and the accumulation, I think, of all of those 2 years of many meetings and being provided with all the information that we've asked for around, we've had really detailed information on geotechnical information, that kind of thing. The board have unanimously decided that that is the best placement for the 3 facilities, to give them all the best that we can do to allow the site to be the most awesome it can be.
It's been unanimous from the community
It
board.
was unanimous from the community board, yes.
Thank you. Is there, Simon's behind you now. Yeah, if there's anything you want
Have
to...
you got that list?
I'm just trying to find it, sorry.
Don't worry.
That's all right, I'll probably talk to it.
So is there anything you want to tell us, Simon? Or?
Probably the first thing to say is, if we're talking about the location of the pool, is we went through, as Andrea has quite rightly said, we went through a very extensive process. We looked at, firstly, the geotechnical quality of the land was really important. When we looked at all the sites right throughout the whole of the east, most of the geotechnical information was pretty much the same. So it almost became a null point in some respects, that we knew that we would have to do work on all pieces of land.
It was shades of stuff, really.
Yeah.
They were. It was.
They were. But the real key thing really was around the access. The other real key thing the Community Board wanted was room to grow. The previous QE2 was in the centre of the park and controlled the park, and obviously there was an aspect around the buildings. And we have decided that that would be a better option to put the new Eastern Recon Sports Centre in that location so that it had room to grow to the north, also to the east and to the west as well. And also hopefully dovetail into what the Ministry of Education is looking at doing with their potential piece of land to the south as well to create a community hub.
Okay, thank you. What I'll do, if it's okay with you guys now, is just let anyone ask any questions that they've got of Tom or Simon or Andrea. Yep.
One of the questions that was asked this morning was about access, but technically there are 3 access sides to this, aren't there? Because you've got Bower Ave, then you've got the road that goes down on an angle to
Escott.
Escott. So there's actually really good access onto the side. It's not all from the front, as in the old, if you want, main entrance into QE2. And generally, the local community would be using those other 2 roads to avoid the traffic. Would that be correct?
Well, the proposal doesn't go into those levels of detail in this thing, but we have seen sort of a bit more. We have had discussion around that. Obviously, traffic management is a big consideration when you've got a lot of people going to be on the site every day, and so yes, there is the option of different alternate entry and egress, entry and exit points, and so there is still work to be done at those points of entry and exit. But yes, I believe there is.
Yeah, I probably can give a little bit more detail. We've been working with the Ministry of Education around a traffic plan for the site. Sorry, we've been working with the Ministry of Education around a traffic plan for the site with their traffic engineers. They, I believe, the best access is off Travis Road to be able to get the flow through, particularly from a bus point of view of getting a through route for a bus to make sure that there's accessibility to the Eastern Recon Sports Centre. The secondary access is off Bower Ave, which will also be a service access to the back of the building. We have deliberately not taken an access from the north, from Ascot, and that is primarily, we thought that may be a little bit more difficult for residents to try and reduce the amount of traffic that the residents would have to put up with if there was an access. I guess there's always the provision to put that in the future, should the need arise. There certainly is the ability to do that, but at this stage, we believe the Travis and the Bower accesses will be able to cater for the park.
Thank you very much, Simon. Cheers.
Thank you. All right, so I'm on questions at the moment. Yanni, then Jimmy, then Glenn.
Thank you. Obviously, trees have been a pretty big issue in the local community at the moment. When I look at what we're proposing to go into consultation with, it would look like most of the trees on the site, mature trees, are going. So can you just kind of help us understand what consideration's been given to the location in regards to the loss of trees in the public realm?
So around the old QE2 entrance, there were a number of memorial trees. We've identified what those trees are, and Line of Oaks, for example, is an area that we have had consultation with the Ministry around. We have, and the Ministry have agreed with us that trees are of primarily importance to the site, and they will try and minimise the reduction of trees on the site, and if there needs to be a reduction of trees, then we'd look at replanting to make sure that will occur. Particularly around the access ways, we are being really careful around how we I guess minimise any disruption to trees at all. The reality is it's a big site, there's a lot of trees on the site, a lot of mature trees, and we wish to keep as many as we can.
But if this goes out for consultation, it shows the Eastern Aquatic Facility taking out a huge number of mature trees.
Those trees up there are eucalyptus trees on that right through that area, and actually we believe that they can be replanted somewhere else. Not the trees themselves, but we'll be able to do replanting.
Okay. The other question I had was, in terms of the different options, like, why are we not going out with an option that may be leasing the land? So leasing the land rather than selling it. And just wondered whether we had any other options as well around the location, because particularly where the school's located, obviously that's the front face of QE2. So really just trying to understand if we thought about having an option about leasing, but also the entrance to QE2, which is basically dominated by the school.
Yeah, so I can probably answer that. We've been through a huge number of iterations of planned locations for the ministry on the site, putting them at the back towards Escott Ave, putting them around the side near Barra Ave, putting them on the western part of the site. And the ministry have a number of, similar to us, they have a number of criteria for location for schools. Proximity and visibility and prominence, and from a SEPTI point of view, they're very keen for visibility off Travis Road. The board and the community also expressed a desire to have that as well, which is why we have that sort of, I guess, the access road going around, but we have a big green space there, so the visibility, you can see the Eastern Recon Sports Centre from Travis Road. As I said before, we're looking at trying to put the facility in the centre of the park so that it has that room to grow and also control other aspects of the park. The ministry have indicated very strongly that is their preference for that location.
Thank you.
And
You got another question?
sorry, and the other question, they also expressed an interest to purchase the land rather than lease the land.
But what's our preference as a city
Our preference was to sell the land.
in terms of location?
In terms of location, we're perfectly happy with the location of the ministry.
The board, again, have seen a number of these iterations. We've had many hours of going through how we could do it differently, and the board, in consultation with a number of community groups, I mean, obviously it's not probably unanimous amongst the whole community, you'd probably never get that, but for the most part, the key people that we've spoken to are comfortable with the pool being in the centre of the park. And it creates the hub, because you're not only just going to have the schools and things to the south, but you're going to have sports fields and other facilities to the north. So it makes it that sort of the centre of the spoke for all of the sports things are going to be, it's going to be a pool, but it's going to be 360 degrees of sports around it as well.
Okay. Thank you. Jimmy?
Okay, thank you. One question. Based on your advantage of this preferred option, you mentioned council will develop a new sporting and recreation facility in QE2 Park. And also, in particular, mention is a partnership with the MOE. I just want to know, this the new facility, if we commence, how about those two schools, the Avonside Girls School and the Shelley Boys High? They still build up their own, the school, sporting recreation facility, or they just share with the council, the community facility?
So the ministry has a certain requirement to provide a level of service for schools as part of their rebuild,
Yes.
And that includes sport and recreation facilities such as the courts, such as the sports fields. So they have minimum levels that they have to provide. In discussions with the ministry, we have indicated to them, said, look, is there opportunities for us to share the facility, both from a community perspective and obviously from a council perspective to utilise. They are more than open to having that conversation with us. And that's primarily one of the key drivers behind this, is to try and create a real community partnership between the schools, the Eastern Recon Sports Centre and the wider sporting park and informal recreation areas.
Yeah, but if our relationship is kind of partnership, whether the MOE should contribute a part of the funding regarding to this, the new facility.
So the ministry is spending a significant amount of money on the redevelopment of the two schools. Part of that obviously is around the courts and auditoriums and facilities which could be utilised by the community. So I think they're contributing a lot back into the east, and certainly applaud them for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Glenn?
Thank you. Just in our informal prior to the meeting, I sensed that, as sometimes happens with major issues in wards, there can sometimes be a contextual kind of disconnect. When the ward councillors are immersed in a process and then the whole council considers something. So just what I'm getting at is over the line of sight over Eastern Recon Sport in relation to the schools, and whether you could convey to us, Simon, what you anticipate through the design for the community. So obviously they'll want to see their pride and joy from the road, and we've got the schools in the front.
Yeah, so if you look at the plan, you'll see quite clearly as you come from the west and you're coming through, you'll have quite a good visible line of sight through the Eastern Recon Sports Centre. Similar to QE2, where it was in the centre of the park, and again it was probably hidden by a number of trees at the western side and also the eastern side. I think you'll very clearly be able to see across the school sporting fields and be able to see the pool. Pools are a destination as well, and once you know where it is, you feel as soon as you get to the entrance, you feel you're there anyway. So we certainly don't see it as an impediment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, can I have a mover and a seconder? Maybe Glenn and David, do you reckon, for this recommendation? Okay, move Glenn, seconded David. And is there any debate? Would you like to speak, David?
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to the motion. Clearly, this is a resolution that proposes consultation, hearings, and maybe some adjustments to the proposal before we actually sell the land to the ministry. I see it as just another important milestone in the recovery of the East and the development of 2 high schools in conjunction with a Eastern Suburbs Sport and Recreation facility will be quite a milestone in that recovery. One of the things that I think is not overly seen at the moment is that the location of the pool and the location of the school's recreational facilities gives the opportunity to create quite a community hub of sporting activities. The school have indicated that they are more than amenable for their gymnasiums, their proposed performing arts centre to be used outside of school hours for our community. We're also looking at the possibility of the Christchurch School of Gymnastics relocating very close by to the Eastern Suburbs Sport and Recreation facility as well. So the other thing I think is cognizant is that the facility where it is our facility is built for expansion. So we need to have it in that central location, allowing room around the facility to expand as and when required. There have been some concerns expressed today about trees in the footprint of the park and their recovery, and there's some very historical group of trees close to the entrance that will need some considerable consideration in the final patch of land that actually gets sold to the ministry. And I think just finally, look, I'm extremely supportive of this move. It is leading to a significant development in our area. We are looking at a redevelopment of the hospital nearing completion. This facility with the schools and the sports facility, legacy projects and work in New Brighton, and they all collectively, I think, will give a huge boost to New Brighton and the eastern suburbs. We have for years sort of laboured with a how do I best say this, a prejudice is probably the best word about activities in the eastern suburbs. It's never been seen with great favour or flavour from successive councils, and I think these moves and a number of others may help to promote the eastern suburbs as a vibrant and exciting place to develop, which hasn't been in this area for some years. So look, I'm very supportive of this step in the process to get a number of projects actually off the ground and up and running in the east, where our residents out there are actually itching to see something actually happen. And this is a great step in the direction of achieving that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yanni.
Thank you. I certainly don't want to hold up the process or the progress on the Eastern sports and the schools, but my main concern is that when you look at this report, you're not given the context or the options around what might be other solutions to some of the issues that may be raised in consultation. So my concern is that if you just looked at the map, people might go, we don't like that, because the aquatic facility is down the back, hidden away, and it's got worse access than the old QE2 site. Now, I know things have changed, but I mean, I will vote for this because it is important to get it out for consultation, but I do hope that in the information sessions that the staff can actually prepare some of those other considerations that may be around, you know, for example, how long does it take to walk from the main entrance to the aquatic facility? What's going to happen to the trees? Because when you just look at this diagram, it probably doesn't quite do it justice as to what's being proposed, and the risk is if you get an overwhelming response against it, you actually haven't made any progress at all. You go back to square one, and I think that would be a real shame. So that's my desire, to see further information, actually further options around what is happening. I remind councillors that there have been some historical agreements with Ministry of Education. Aurora Centre at Burnside, for example, may have been one. Wasn't in my time, but you talk to the community about access to that building and it's quite expensive. So often these things sound great at the start, but over time they can change, and actually the community can end up not having the expectations that they thought they would have being fulfilled. So I think it's really important that this gets clarified at the start, and so as part of this consultation I hope you'll be able to provide the information around what some of those arrangements and conditions are, because I think it's important that people know what the trade-offs are that are being attached. But as I said, I just think it's really important that the wider context is made clear around things like the access, the environment, and some of the community benefits, so that when it goes out for consultation, there is an opportunity for people to understand how you've come to the conclusions that you've come to, and actually make informed submissions. So I will support it because I want to see it go forward, but I am concerned about some of the information.
So some Q&As attached to it would be really helpful.
Yes.
Pauline?
Yeah, just quickly, yes, I'm supportive of this, and I'm supportive of the work that the community board and the 2 ward councillors have obviously put into this, hours and hours and hours, so I'm perfectly comfortable with their guidance on this, and you're recommending that you're comfortable with the site, etc. And it is just going out for consultation, so more may be revealed in due course. I just want to take the opportunity to remind council of the notice of motion I lodged at the last meeting about the trees. I'm not sure where that's landed, but I think we were generally, well, unanimously supportive that of the principle if any tree is removed, it will be replaced in numbers. So just reminding you of that, and I'm sure that's the case because you did mention it.
Yes, well aware.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Glenn, shall I let you wind it up?
Yeah, thank you. Just holding my glass half full. I do take on board Councillor Johansson's questions, and he has a right to ask them, and I hope that they will be asked in the consultation process. This will be a unique hub for the east of recreational and sporting facilities, and I'm not sure how often any of us ever get an opportunity like this to be part of that. Obviously, the question over prominence of the Eastern Rec and Sport facility will be in the community's mind, and we'll hear about that through the hearings panel process. We will probably hear a bit about what will happen to the proceeds from the sale as well, given the backdrop of the insurance and that going to the Metro Sports facility. But this is about a consultation process now. This item is about setting that off in train and letting the community have their say. And I'm sure they will. They've got very strong views, and we will hear, the themes will come through pretty strongly, and we'll know what they're thinking. So let it begin.
Okay, so I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Didn't hear it, guys. Okay, item number 7, Smoke Free Canterbury.